Social leaders from 13 Peruvian provinces agreed to resume demonstrations on January the 4th, 2023, as they intend to march to the capital, Lima. Tensions escalate between Kosovo and Serbia after an airport closure due to a bomb threat. And a large fire swept through an oil refinery in Erbil, the Kurdish region of Iraq. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Now we begin with the news. On Tuesday, social leaders from 13 Peruvian provinces agreed to resume demonstrations on January the 4th, 2023, as they intend to march to Lima. The social leaders of the department of Puno in southeastern Peru gathered in assembly, set a date for the strike's resumption, and said the actions will involve total road closures, rallies and mobilizations. They also stressed their demands, the resignation of President Dina Boluarte and the early elections in 2023. Peru has been experiencing a series of protests since last December the 7th, when the parliament dismissed President Pedro Castillo, who is under preventive detention for 18 months for the alleged crime of rebellion. On Tuesday in Argentina, the Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner assured that her decision not to run in the 2023 elections is not a resignation, but a result of a campaign of proscription or lawfare. During the inauguration of the Diego Armando Maradona Sports Complex in the city of Avellaneda, Cristina pointed out that the campaign against her was led by what she called the judicial party and the hegemonic media. Furthermore, she asserted that the proscriptive scheme is not something new and began to take shape after her mandate extended or concluded in December 2015. This was her first public appearance since last December the 6th, when an oral court sentenced her to 6 years in prison and disqualification from holding public office, in a process that lasted more than 3 years. The ruling was appealed by the defense of Cristina Fernández.
What I'm going to say is the following. From one side, they started to talk about Cristina's resignation, and then I see other newspapers talking about self-exclusion. Look, the only resignation there was in Peronism was that of Eva Perón, and here there is no self-exclusion either. Let's speak clearly. Here there is proscription.
On the other hand, the Argentine vice president questioned the Supreme Court for issuing a precautionary measure that increases the percentage of taxes that the national government must deliver to the city of Buenos Aires.
And from this resolution of the Supreme Court of Justice of the nation, I know that there has been a lot of talk. I want to go to the bottom of the matter. What is happening with the democratic issue in Argentina, because Mauricio Macri modified with a simple decree what the national government was entitled to in terms of co-participation. He gave a lot to the government of the city of Buenos Aires, the richest city in the Argentine Republic. What he took away from that portion that goes to the provinces, he gave it to the city of Buenos Aires, and then this, which had been discussed and criticized by all the governors of the country, was resolved by another decree.
In the 15th century, the poinsettia already adorned the gardens of Moctezuma. The Mexicans call it Quetzalcoatl, which in Nahuatl means withering flower or flower with leathery petals. Today, originally from Mexico, it is part of the Christmas celebration in many countries. The story with our correspondent in Mexico City, Aiza Garcia.
In Mexico's times, they were known as Quetzalcoatl. Its petals were crushed to obtain ink for textiles and leather. Now, it is more than just an ornament, and the colorful poinsettia is the queen of flowers at Christmas time.
We have a wide variety of poinsettias of all sizes and colors.
The plant is a native of Mexico, and according to researchers, it symbolized purity and a new life gained by warriors killed in battle. For this reason, the friars used to place it in the nativity scenes before Christmas.
We have been producing it for many years here in Xochimilco, but it is also produced in other states of the Republic, but it is well known that the poinsettia is 100% Mexican.
As of June, growers start sowing the poinsettia that in November begins to be seen in streets, nativity scenes, gardens, and houses.
Over the years, it started to be called poinsettia because it was very close to Christmas, and it was a characteristic to have a red plant or a poinsettia flower in our house.
Today, they are sold at fairs like this one, something that did not happen during the worst of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the flower business was reduced.
We are supposed to promote our production this season to boost our economies and brighten up the homes that in many places have left families divided and in a somewhat sad way. Now that we are coming out of the pandemic, what we want to do is to try to place all the poinsettias on sale, so that the people start buying them again and keep them from staying in the greenhouses.
There are more than 100 varieties of poinsettias, but they all need a lot of care to keep them alive, this merchant tells us.
Indoors, they should be watered twice a week, and there are also varieties that can be in the sun and should be watered 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It is also very important that when they are watered in the sun, it can be in the morning or in the afternoon, never in the middle of the day, and indoors once a week.
According to codices and diaries from pre-Hispanic times, the poinsettia was used to treat fevers and certain skin diseases. By the 16th century, its properties were better known, and the plant was even used to increase lactation in breastfeeding women.
Aiza García, TeleSUR, Ciudad de México.
Now we go to other stories. On Wednesday, the defeated President Jair Bolsonaro will travel to the city of Orlando in the U.S., confirming that he will not hand over the presidential sash to the elected ruler of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, on January the 1st. The president will spend a vacation time in the U.S. and must remain out of the country for at least 3 months. Bolsonaro will be able to travel in the Brazilian Air Force official plane because he is in office until December 31st. However, the return must be in a commercial or private aircraft. Lula will be inaugurated on Sunday afternoon, and due to Bolsonaro's decision to leave the country, the traditional passing of the sash from one head of state to the other will not take place. Let's take a short break now, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, signed Moscow's decree in response to the cap on Russian oil prices imposed by the G7 countries, the European Union, and Australia. Early December, these nations agreed to impose a $60 per barrel cap on the price of Russian oil. The Russian government has repeatedly called the Western initiative an anti-market measure that may significantly complicate the situation on world energy markets. The official document, signed on Tuesday, stated that Russia will not sell oil to countries that have joined the price cap. The decree will enter into force on February 1st, 2023, and will remain in force until July 1st, 2023. Less than an hour after the publication of the document, oil prices have soared. Thus, Brent crude oil rose to $86 a barrel for the first time since December the 5th, according to data from the London Stock Exchange ICE. On Wednesday, Kosovo police reported that the region's only airport, Adem Jeshari, in Pristina, was closed following a bomb threat. The officers claimed they received information about a possible explosive device but gave no other details. The police said in a statement that the bomb disposal units had been deployed and it was not immediately clear if any specific flight was a possible target. Meanwhile, airport officials said passengers and the airport staff were evacuated and remained safe. Several flights were delayed or cancelled after the events. Prior to this event, similar threats were made with no suspects immediately identified. On Wednesday, the railway workers and border control workers in the United Kingdom are taking part in a new wave of strikes to demand a better pay. Disruption to train services to continue until Thursday. As in previous strikes, the railway sector is demanding a 7% wage increase to face the high cost of living, but the company Network Rail has only offered a 5% increase. Likewise, about 1,000 border force workers are on strike until Saturday to demand a wage increase, something that affects London's Heathrow and Gatwick airports, as well as those of Birmingham, Manchester, Cardiff and Glasgow. And nearly 60% of the German trade associations are pessimistic about the economy for the 2023, according to a survey by the German Institute for Economic Research. Among the 49 German trade associations surveyed between mid-November and early December, 30 of them expect their members' output to fall next year. Meanwhile, only 13 expect output in their sectors to rise. Moreover, nearly 40 associations believe their members are worse than they were a year ago. The survey also shows that record inflation continues to weigh on German economic sentiment. Since the escalation of the Ukraine crisis, Germany has followed the Western powers launching sanctions against Russia. However, the effect of the sanctions has put the European countries in a difficult position. And the Vatican announced that in the last hours the health of the Emeritus Benedict XVI has worsened. The former head of the Catholic Church, who is currently 95 years old, suffered several decompensations. Pope Francis went to visit him at the Mater Ecclesiae Monastery in the Vatican Gardens area, where Benedict has been in seclusion since he resigned from the pontificate in 2013. The Argentine Pope asked for a special prayer for his predecessor. Joseph Ratzinger was born in Germany in the Bavarian town of Markel in 1927. He was elected the Church's 265th pontiff in 2005 and resigned on February 28, 2013. His decision was the first of its kind made by the Pope in the modern era and shook the Roman Curia, giving rise to the conclave that 2 weeks later elected the Argentine Jorge Bergoglio. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. On Tuesday, a large fire swept through an oil refinery in Erbil in the Kurdish region of Iraq. The spokesperson for the Erbil Civil Defense Department, Sarkrat Karash, told the local press that the fire caused great material damage, and 2 firemen were injured, one of them having suffered a serious wound. Meanwhile, the authorities said that the causes of the fire remain unknown. The flames were brought under control later, as reported by the Iraqi state news agency. The Chinese government declared on Tuesday its concern about the increase in the defense budget of some $51,270 million in the Japanese nation. During a press conference, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin specified that Tokyo exaggerates regional tensions to achieve progress in its military power. The Foreign Ministry also described the actions of Japan as dangerous trend, which forces countries of the international community to question whether Tokyo continues its peaceful development. Likewise, the Chinese spokesperson reiterated Beijing's commitment to the peaceful path, while calling the Japanese nation to reflect on its history of being cautious with its words and actions in the military field.
We have noticed relevant reports and expressed concern over the apparent and substantial increase in Japan's defense budget. The Japanese side exaggerates the tension in the region in order to seek a breakthrough in its own military power. This is a dangerous move that has forced its Asian neighbors and the international community to strongly question whether Japan is sincerely committed to defense and adheres to the path of peaceful development. The Japanese side should seriously reflect on its history of aggression and be cautious in its words and deeds in the field of military security, so as not to further lose its credit among its Asian neighbors and in the international community.
One person died during a highway accident involving about city on Wednesday. According to the city's traffic police, the chain of crashes happened around 7:40 a.m. local time on the Zhengzhou River Bridge. They also said that vehicles collided in both two-way lanes due to limited visibility from heavy fog. Government authorities sent 11 rescue trucks and 66 firefighters to the site to help people who had been trapped inside their cars. Local firefighters at the scene confirmed most of the vehicles were small cars and none were carrying dangerous chemicals. And the Palestinian authorities denounced on Tuesday that the Israeli occupation forces have killed more than 220 Palestinians during 2022. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Stayah pointed out that almost 10,000 Palestinians have been injured by the Israeli army. The official also denounced that Tel Aviv indiscriminately imposed house arrest on almost 600 Palestinian children and adolescents. The Palestinian premier warned that the situation his country is going through is a political battle and that the majority of the countries in the world support the cause of the Palestinian people. And despite Western coercive measures and severe damage to the health facilities terrorist war has caused, Syria has shown remarkable progress in the recovery of its health sector during the current year. The expansion of the opening of hospitals, health centers, and pharmaceutical plants is proof of that. Let's see.
Syrian health authorities offer free medical care to all the country's citizens without exception. The blockade causes limitations. However, they continue to do so in the many rehabilitated and rebuilt health facilities with the resources and with the support of friendly countries. One example of that is the opening of the Harasta hospital in Damascus countryside this year. It has 90 beds and the setting of the first stem cell transplant center in the country.
Despite the difficult circumstances of war and blockade that prevent us from importing the necessary medicines, equipment, and medical supplies, we have managed to build an equipped center and other health centers in the country. So we can consider this achievement as a resilient answer and a true miracle.
In parallel, 4 national vaccination campaigns against COVID-19 and numerous immunization days against cholera, polio, and other contagious diseases took place in 2022. Syrian authorities have had to face a lack of medicines, equipment, and medical supplies due to the blockade. They have not been alone, however, since they have received medical assistance from Russia, China, Cuba, and other friendly countries. They have also reactivated the national pharmaceutical plans, which this year covered 90% of a country's medical needs.
The sanctions affect all sectors, the health sector included. Due to the blockade, we are facing great difficulties in securing the necessary resources to fight coronavirus. That is why we demand the immediate elimination of this humane blockade, so that we can fulfill our mission in confronting coronavirus and other diseases. The pandemic also affects young people. That is why I came to get immunized, since I consider that all the youth must get the vaccine because they are the most productive sector and their health and work are both essential for the development of the country.
Thousands of civilians and military personnel, crippled as a result of the terrorist war imposed on Syria, were able to recover their physical and kinetic abilities thanks to the free medical and physiological care they received at state-owned and civil society prosthetic centers. Meanwhile, the national campaign for the early detection of breast, cervical, and prostate cancers continues in the country. Despite the difficult war and blockade situations, the Syrian authorities promised to continue this work in 2023 to guarantee public health.
TeleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
Now we move on to other topics. In the Philippines, 25 people died and 26 others are still missing after severe floods hit several regions in the south and east of the country since Saturday. In its latest update, the National Emergency Team indicated that more than 81,000 people were displaced according to figures provided by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Meanwhile, the council said that 1,196 houses were damaged by the floods, while sections of 123 roads and 12 bridges were affected. The southern island of Mindanao and the southeast of Luzon, the most inhabited island of the archipelago, were the areas most affected by the heavy rains registered in the country since the weekend. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.